Okay, Carly, in our weekly series during Mental Health Awareness Month of May, this week we're talking about relationships.
That's right. This week, Dr. Sarah Getch from Kansas City University is back to talk about navigating those ups and downs of friendships. Of course, we're always happy to have you here. So we're talking friendships this morning. Tell us why it's so important to have friendships.
Sure. So, last week we talked about connections at work,
Right.
and how important those connections were. And now we're just going to talk about connections, non-romantic relationships, and how important those are. So the research indicates that when you have healthy platonic relationships, you live longer, your overall physical health is better, and you're buffered against some of the concerns that you might have with mental health. So you're less likely to be depressed and less likely to be anxious. These relationships are extremely important to our overall health.
Yeah. From time to time, though, over the course of time, there's going to be a problem. There's going to be something that comes up that you're not going to agree, and you may get your feelings hurt.
Yes. Yes.
So there's a workplace dynamic in that, because you got to go back and face that person again the next day.
Yes. Yes. Sure. Yes.
Friendship confrontation can be difficult.
It can be difficult. That's true. For me personally, one of the things that I gave up on a long time ago was perfect relationships in any form whatsoever. And I would really encourage all of us to take that on, because perfect relationships don't work. It will never work. But what does work is, when something does go wrong, is owning that mistake and making it better as we move forward. And allowing ourselves some grace. If we made the mistake, if we made the error, making sure that we've forgiven ourselves to be able to move forward and have that conversation with your friend.
Yeah. What if you want to take a break from your friendship or end it completely? I know that's a tough step to take, and some people feel slighted by that, because you want to set that boundary because it no longer serves you.
And you're right. Sometimes we do have to set those boundaries, and that will happen. I think in those situations, and again, this is my personal philosophy, I never, at your evaluation, I never give you feedback that you haven't received previously, right? And I think about that with my friends too. I'm always approaching it with a growth mindset. I'm imperfect. They're going to be imperfect. So how do we have that authentic conversation of, I love you, this hurt me, how can we move forward? And then if it doesn't get better, or if there is no reconciliation, I think you have your answer, and you know that it might be time to move on.
Yeah.
All right, here's a men are from Mars, women are from Venus question for you, okay? So there's this perception out there that, I would say there's a perception that women have relationships with other women easier than men do with other men. And their perception is maybe that men don't need friendships as much as women do, or have as many relationships as women do. Is that a fair statement, or is that...
So parts of it are fair. So it is true that over time, so over their lifespan, men sort of do dwindle. Their friendships do, the number of friends that they have might dwindle. And so that is true. But it's not true that men don't need these relationships, or that they wouldn't benefit from them. They would absolutely benefit from them. Somewhere along the way, it seems like friendship gets gendered, that it's okay for women to be friends.
Why do you think
but
that
it's
is?
not. I think it's our societal biases that we have towards men and women, and sort of trying to define what that means. And sometimes that gets us into trouble. And so instead, I think we need to look at what the literature says, which is that men who have meaningful relationships are better in their romantic relationships. That's good, right? And then also they have those added health benefits and mental health benefits of when you have an opportunity to be open and vulnerable, that will buoy you. It will buoy you through the hard times. And that's why we need to encourage our men and women to have friendships.
Yes. Great advice.
Yeah. Well, I just know that I've heard this before, that like for a guy, if you open yourself up and allow yourself to be vulnerable and allow yourself to be out there, it can only make you stronger, as opposed to being, I'm not going to let this bother me, and I'm going to power through this. You know what I mean?
Being vulnerable, thinking that vulnerability is a weakness, that's a myth. That is not true. It takes a strong person to be open and vulnerable and be willing to take that risk, because the reward is so great.
Love that.
I'm loving our chats every week. So, good stuff. Thank you, Dr. Sarah Getch. We really appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
See you next week.